My poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
That was Dr. Martin Luther King speaking in Washington, D.C. on August 28, 1963. Well, the event at which Dr. King made his famous speech was the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. And even as the King Memorial dedication has been postponed, a related rally for jobs and justice will proceed on Saturday, ending with a march to the King Memorial. It's expected to attract thousands of labor, education, and civil rights activists across the country. In the year before he was assassinated, Dr. King organized a Poor People's Campaign for economic opportunity for all Americans. To talk about the memorial and the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, we go to Washington, D.C., where we're joined by longtime civil rights leader Reverend Jesse Jackson. Reverend Jackson's also president and founder of Rainbow Push Coalition. And we're joined in Denver, Colorado by Dr. Vincent Harding, who is a longtime friend and former speechwriter for Dr. King, who wrote his famous Beyond Vietnam address. He's also chair of the Veterans of Hope Project. Dr. Harding is author of several books, including Martin Luther King, the Inconvenient Hero. We welcome you both to Democracy Now! The sculpture in Washington, the statue, Reverend Jesse Jackson, can you talk about its origins, how there finally is in Washington, D.C., this statue on the mall that is not for a president or a war, the first time a black man is being honored?
I suppose the gravitas is this journey, this 164-mile journey from Jamestown, Virginia, where slaves landed in 1619, 246 years of legal slavery, then 100 years of Jim Crow. That's the context of that struggle to make this a more perfect union. And Dr. King's role in it at that stage took us all to another level of hope and ambition. And so his Alpha Phi Alpha brothers, in a very ingenious way, came up with the idea of having a statue on the mall and commenced to build a foundation, began to raise the money. The idea got traction, and now we see the result of it in this huge statue on the monument. And so not far from three presidents, Presidents Lincoln and Washington and Jefferson, stand the Nobel laureate, the man of peace, who was the real transformative figure on that mall. For in one sense, Presidents Lincoln and Washington and Jefferson are huge national figures, but none on that mall stands as tall as Dr. King as a world transformative figure, the idea of human rights and freedom around the world.
Well, Reverend Jackson, Cornel West had a piece in today's, an op-ed piece in today's New York Times titled Reverend King Would Be Weeping. And the thrust of his column was that this symbol and memorial to Dr. King comes at the same time that so many of the substance of the issues that Dr. King raised, especially in his final days, are being ignored or even the country is turning its back on those issues that Dr. King raised. Your reaction to this irony that Cornel West raises?
I think we would do well to use the statue as an occasion to deal with his unfinished business. He was shot down, assassinated at age 39. His last agenda items included a Poor People's Campaign, the quest to end the war in Vietnam and stop the radical escalation of capital in the hands of the very wealthy. And today, here we are with too few people with too much wealth subsidized by the government, too many unnecessary wars, and too many people in poverty. So in some sense, this memorial gives us a rallying point to keep dealing with his unfinished business. We bail out the banks without link to lending and reinvestment, for example. The Bush tax cut extension is more money than all of the state budget deficits combined. So clearly, Wall Street has made out big time, but the poor are expanding, and we're losing jobs in mass, and we must, in fact, turn it around.
Dr. Vince Harding, the name of your book about Dr. King is Martin Luther King, the Inconvenient Hero. You're quoting from a poem by Carl Wendell Hines. Can you share that with us?
I'll be very glad to, Amy, and I'm so glad to be on the program with you again. As I thought about the monument. What came immediately to my mind was this poem that I quote in the King book by Carl Wendell Himes. And here is the section that I'm especially interested in sharing this morning. Now that he is safely dead, let us praise him, build monuments to his glory, sing hosannas to his name. Dead men make such convenient heroes. They cannot rise to challenge the images we would fashion from their lives. And besides, it is easier to build monuments than to build a better world.
Dr. Vince Harding, talk about why you think that
was on my mind.
Go ahead. Talk about why that is on your mind today, as this statue, well, is about to be formally unveiled, but because of the hurricane will be postponed.
I think that the whole issue that Martin represented of the role of all of us as citizens in this nation to work to create a more just, compassionate, and concerned nation is something that is so easy for us to forget as we build the monument. I believe very strongly that monuments, works of art, are of great importance. But what comes to my mind, Amy, is that when we take our children to see the monument, I hope that when they ask about who that is and why the monument is there, that we'll say to those children, not that this is Martin Luther King, who was a great speech maker, but that this is King who helped to inspire me to work for you to have a better school, my son, to work for you, my daughter, to be able to be a great creative agent in this world, to work for our community, to be a place where all of us can live in love and strength and unity. If we could tell our children from that monument what work it is that we are doing now to carry on the work that King was involved in and that King died for, then your monument will have its rightful place. But we must always keep in mind that that work has to go on if the monument is to have any real meaning for us all.
And Reverend Jackson, about that work, the march that you're having on Saturday, obviously in the midst right now of a presidency where many expected much more in terms of dedication to alleviating some of the problems of the poor and of those who are less fortunate in this society. That hasn't happened. Your sense of what the message of the march will be?
Let me say to you, I want to build up on, and first, good morning, Dr. Harding, one of Dr. King's closest friends.
Good morning,
we have a way of
Jesse.
embracing martyrs and not marchers, trying to neuter him. He died a very unpopular man, attacked by our government, attacked by the media, shunned by many blacks themselves, for example, civil rights activists, because he dared to deal with the issue of unjust, unnecessary wars. They were spending $1 trillion in Iraq on the wrong target. Overthrowing the government in Libya, well, $1 billion there and billions more to restore it. $2 billion a week in Afghanistan, and yet we're laying off teachers, firemen, policemen. He would be distressed by that. He would be weeping about that. The bailout for these banks who drove us in the hole, and then they get bailed out without links to kind of in a reinvestment. We refortified them, not restructured them. These issues that Dr. King would have raised would be troubling, but it is his sense of outrage and conscience that make us better today. And I would hope, as Vince said, that the interpretation must lead us to his unfinished business. The dream only makes sense if it's connected to the broken promise that had been unfulfilled for 100 years. And today, the dream is to put every American back to work. That means reinvesting in the common people bottom up. We're cutting public transportation, denying access to jobs, resegregating. Our schools are most segregated. The biggest growth industry in most states, the jail industrial complex. So he would see me raising troubling questions of conscience. So I would see this monument as an opportunity to raise issues of jobs and peace and justice.
Reverend Jackson, can you talk about the corporate contributors to this statue and the event, the mass corporate donations that funded the memorial, FedEx, General Motors, GE, PepsiCo, ExxonMobil?
Well, I do not know, who all did the contributions, but I do know that that will pale by comparison to how long the statue will be here. And you go to Lincoln, it's a conversation about the Emancipation Proclamation. Or you go to Jefferson, there's a statement about his being a founder of the country, democracy and slavery coexisting. You go to Washington, father of the country. You go to Dr. King's statue, you'll be talking about civil rights and social justice. It will outlast who contributed to making it happen. I would think that that would be the last, a man of peace on that statue. Unlike these presidents, he's the tallest figure there because people coming here from South Africa and from Australia and from Asia, people all around the world who embrace peace and justice and self-determination, find in Dr. King's statue, that one will be the most appealing statue on the entire mall.